Well, hello and welcome along to a bonus midweek Premier League preview from the Honest Football Podcast. Today, we look ahead to a rearranged game from the start of the season, and it's a big one at the bottom of the table as Luton Town host Burnley on Tuesday night. It is a game, of course, that I'll be at. It's a game that's huge for both teams, and it is massive, even this early on in the battle against relegation. It's a head-to-head between the two sides that lost the least games in the Championship last season, and of course, although both got promoted, it has been very different for them since. Vincent Kompany's side have completely renovated their team with nearly £150 million worth of talent coming in, lots of young players across Europe who should have big sell-on fees, definitely a sensible approach for the future, rather than splashing the cash for the sake of it. Whereas for Luton Town, it has been moderation, it's been sustainability. It's been all the things you expect from Luton Town. Just under 20 million spent, but that did not stop them being the first of the three promoted sides to get a win on Saturday afternoon. Let's have a look back at Luton versus Everton. I should say very quickly as we head into this, no recap today because there's no other games in midweek. We'll do a full recap for the predictions ahead of this weekend's action where the whole Premier League is back and playing. But of course, as always, get your score predictions for this game down in the comments as we look back at Everton versus Luton Town. And it's something that we've talked about a lot in the terraces and we've talked about a lot here this season. Can you take the lead in a game and what difference will it make? Well, the answer is it makes a huge difference. Luton Town dealt with a little early barrage, the best chance probably being Dwight McNeil's long-range effort. And it is something you have to take out of the game in spite of the stats. Yes, Everton had a lot of the ball. We know most sides will do that against Luton. Yes, Everton had twice the number of shots, but they only hit the target 5 times. And quite frankly, a lot of it was balls into the box with headers under pressure that were nowhere near the target and several long-range efforts like the one from McNeil in the first half. But overall, Everton didn't really have a constant real threat. They didn't really look like scoring. And I think Rob Edwards summed it up pretty well himself. In the second half, it was fairly comfortable, despite the amount of pressure and possession that Everton had. Luton took that crucial 2-goal lead, and do you know what pleased me the most? That first goal against Everton, it summed up how Luton have got to where they are. The ball bounces down off the line, Ashley Young takes a touch, tries to clear, and Tom Lockyer is on him in a flash, sliding in, putting his body on the line. It hits whatever part of him, his ankle, his shin, and goes in. And that probably sums up the Luton rise in the last decade. The never say die attitude, the never giving up, the chasing lost causes, and the believing when no one else does. And that 1% chance something happens. And Tom Lockyer made it happen, the skipper. He led by example. And then after that, we go to the flip reverse, which is real quality. A goal from open play from Carlton Morris. Yes, it came initially from a free kick being put in. But what a lovely composed finish. I mean, if you're Everton, as Sean Dyche was at the end of the game, you will be furious with the marking. How Luton's top scorer, star centre forward, and probably one of their prime aerial threats if it had been a traditional cross, was completely unmarked to the back, you'll never know. A big shout out to Pelly Ruddock, who did a real good job occupying 2 defenders and giving Morris that free run. But in the end, it was a quality finish, and he moves on to 3 for the season, with that being his first from open play. So definitely positives on the Luton front there. Of course, it was a scrappy goal that got Everton back into it, and Luton have got to defend their box better in those situations. In the second half, in spite of key injuries in defensive areas, a back 3 including someone who was playing in League One last season, someone who joined the club quite late in the summer and was making a Premier League debut for the club. I mean, you've got a real back 3 that you didn't expect to have there, but the Luton ethos didn't change, and in the end they defended it relatively well. Kaminski was assured at the back for the most part. The wing-backs worked their backside off, and I've got to give a shout-out to Nakamba and Pelly in midfield. Both excellent. I did suggest in the preview to the Everton game that Pelly should play in the middle, just because of the physicality and the box-to-box nature of Everton's midfielders, particularly the way Sean Dyche plays. And they were both excellent. Nakamba, of course, was just the rock there. His interception numbers, his passes completed, his ground covered. I mean, he was rightly named man of the match from the Luton side of things, but him and Pelly in there, it was the perfect combination, and it worked an absolute treat. Luton were a threat out wide, which is why they kept winning corners, set pieces, and they kept pressing Everton high up the pitch. And in the end, they got their just rewards. And you know what? Getting the monkey off the back of the first win, which you could see against Wolves was getting closer. Against Fulham, the best chances were Luton's. But they got it off their back now, and I'll be really interested to see what the reaction to that is, because If you look ahead to Tuesday night now, there are people looking at the Burnley game and going, yeah, all right, Luton can win this. And there are Burnley fans that are a bit more worried. And is that going to be almost a problem? Because if we go back to the 2 games last season, Burnley were terrific, Luton were excellent. The game away from home at the start of the season was so close. There was nothing between the teams. One side edged the first, one edged the second. And the game at Kenilworth Road towards the end of the year, okay, it was the late red card and the late Burnley winner, but for 75 minutes or so, that was a stalemate as well. So these are 2 sides where the clash of styles naturally leads to a pretty calm game. I wonder if that's going to be different this time, because Vincent Kompany has stuck to his principles this year in spite of the fact that people have told him they need to get more compact. And again at the weekend against Newcastle, they started really well, had the best chance early doors. Then they got hit by a sucker punch, and it's that ruthless quality. Almiron scoring an absolute rocket. James Trafford, by the way, made an exceptional save in that game as well. Nick Pope made a couple too. But in the end, it was just that quality in both boxes. And I go back to what I said last week, which Luton Wolves, we were all there. We were frustrated by it. You watched the Burnley v United game the same evening, and it was exactly the same problem. The game was almost identical. Burnley dominated it. They had chances in the box. They hit the woodwork. But then in both boxes, there's not that quality. They're missing chances that other teams would take. And there's a bit of Portuguese magic at the other end, which can do things that their team can't. And that's where Luton and Burnley have both got their struggles compared to a lot of the Premier League this year. It's something that always will be for the relegated clubs a problem. Yes, Burnley have spent money, but even they can't afford to go out and just splash 50, 60 million on a top number 9. Nobody can do it. So the battle of this game is going to be who takes chances. We know Burnley have got some very exciting players out wide. Koleosho is the most talked about one, but there are 2 or 3 that have shown real intent on the ball, taking on players against a Luton back 3 that is filled with injuries at the minute, can be ropey and is missing some of its fastest players. Is that going to be a bit of a concern? The flip side of that, Luton's aggressive, attacking, pressing front 3 against a Burnley defence that relentlessly plays out from the back. Can we catch them out? Will we catch them out? I'd expect it to happen at some point. It comes down to who's going to take chances, because both teams are going to get them naturally, given the defences they're playing against. The only slight positive I give to Luton is the fixtures coming up on a Saturday after. Yes, we're playing a couple of hours earlier, but we're playing Spurs at home, who are flying, who are unbeaten, albeit in dubious circumstances yesterday, but we're not going to get into that. And Burnley are at home to Chelsea, which, remarkably, has become a game that most teams look at as winnable now in the Premier League. So will Burnley have to maybe think about both fixtures, whereas Luton can go all out for this one? And if they have to rotate a bit against Spurs, then so be it. Then there's an international break anyway. I'm intrigued by it. I really don't know what to predict for this fixture. There is an awful lot to suggest that one team could win it. Of course, for Burnley, it's arguably more important now with Luton off the mark in terms of victories, because if Luton win this game, they go 6 points clear of Burnley and Sheffield United. They start putting real daylight between them with 7 games played. If not, if it goes the other way, they're back on 4 points each, and that bunch really tightens up near the bottom of the table. But for me, based on seeing the 2 games last season, based on what I've seen in the Premier League this year, I can see it being a very even game. I can see both teams having a threat. I can see both teams creating chances galore, and both perhaps not taking that many of them. So I hate to sit on the fence, but I've got a feeling this is going to be the scoreline. And I'm going to bring the Championship's favourite scoreline into the Premier League again. I can't see much else than a repeat of the Wolves result, and that will be a 1-1 draw between Luton and Burnley. Fingers crossed it can be back-to-back wins for Luton from our point of view, because if it is, it's going to be one hell of a season to be on 7 points and over halfway to Derby's total, which we were going to break. But a real positive from the weekend. Great to get that first win under the belts. And to be fair, Rob Edwards so far has done the one thing Kompany hasn't, which is he's adapted his style, he's changed his formation, and he's been a bit more compact, which I feel Burnley, sooner or later, are going to have to do. So, of course, as always, let me know what you think the score will be down in the comments. Do you agree or disagree with my assessment? And who do you think are favourites going into this? And have you changed your mind on who's more likely to stay up of the 2 teams, if any? In the meantime, we will be back later in the week with a preview of Luton v Spurs and all of the Premier League predictions and recap for the weekend. And also later today, there's a full midweek fixture list in the Championship. And later this evening, we will have our score predictions for the full fixture list. So come and join in with that one as you always do. It's greatly appreciated. It's a massive game on Tuesday night. I hope you're looking forward to it as much as me. Under the lights at Kenilworth Road, Luton don't often lose, but West Ham in the Premier League was one of those. So let's hope Burnley isn't another. You can come and follow me over on Twitch if you like the gaming side of the world. From FM24, we will be streaming a Luton Twitch save nearly every day. That one's due to start towards the end of October. And of course, we also have plenty of football watch-alongs and chat there as well. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to stay up to date with everything across the podcast, including the Championship predictions later today. But well done to Luton Town on their first Premier League win. Hopefully a second will follow on Tuesday night. I'll be happy to be wrong with my prediction again if Luton Town can get 3 points. I'll see you later today for the Championship predictions.